My beloved child. You did not click this by accident, and you did not arrive here because the algorithm felt generous today. You arrived because something inside you has been quietly bleeding without making noise, and tonight it finally asked to be seen. That person who broke your heart, the one whose name still echoes when the room goes silent, the one who walked away while you were still fighting for us, is no longer standing where you think they are. You believe they moved on stronger, happier, untouched by what they did. You believe they won. But listen carefully, because the truth you are about to hear is not loud, not dramatic, and not obvious. It is slow. It is heavy. And once you understand it, you will never look at your past the same way again. Every tear you swallowed, every message you never sent, every night you replayed their voice in your head was not meaningless. It was building something unseen. Right now, somewhere you cannot witness, that person has begun to realize the cost of losing you. Not in the way movies show it. Not with instant regret or sudden apologies. But in a far more painful way. A way that unfolds quietly, daily, relentlessly. Stay with me, because what comes next will explain why their smile today hides a truth they cannot escape tomorrow. There is a moment that arrives in every life, and it never announces itself. It comes disguised as success, comfort, or distraction. For the person who broke your heart, that moment is already here. At first, everything felt easy for them. Leaving you felt like freedom. Choosing themselves felt powerful. Walking away from someone who loved deeply felt justified. They told themselves stories to sleep at night. They said you were too emotional. Too intense. Too much. And for a while, those lies worked. New faces appeared. New conversations filled the silence. Laughter returned, but it was thinner than before. What they did not realize was this. You were not just a chapter in their life. You were the standard. You were the reference point their soul would secretly use forever. Every future connection would be compared to the way you cared, the way you listened, the way you stayed. And comparison is a dangerous thing, because it slowly exposes loss. One day, without warning, they will notice it. In the middle of a conversation that feels hollow. In the middle of laughter that ends too quickly. In the middle of a touch that feels empty. They will think, why does this feel different? They will not say your name out loud, but their heart will. And that is when the wish begins. Not the wish to return, but the wish that they had not broken something so rare. Here is the part no one tells you, and this is where the story turns. When someone breaks a heart like yours, they do not escape the consequences. They postpone them. Pain does not disappear. It changes timing. While you were grieving, healing, and rebuilding yourself in silence, they were avoiding. While you were questioning your worth, they were distracting themselves from accountability. But time has a strange loyalty. It always sides with truth. As you slowly learned how to breathe without them, how to wake up without waiting for their message, how to live without asking for permission to exist, something shifted. You became stronger in places they never looked. You became quieter, sharper, and more self-aware. Meanwhile, they remained exactly where they were emotionally the day they left you. And that is why the wish grows heavier for them each year. They will meet people who are impressive but unavailable, kind but shallow, attractive but unsafe. And they will remember you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. Because you loved with presence. Because you saw them without trying to own them. That memory becomes a mirror. And mirrors are cruel when you are not proud of who you are. Understand this carefully, because this is the revelation most people miss. They do not miss you the way you miss them. They miss the version of themselves that existed when you were there. The one who was softer. The one who was seen. The one who felt chosen without performing. You were not just loving them. You were reminding them who they could be. And when they lost you, they lost access to that reflection. That is why their wish is silent. That is why it shows up late at night. That is why it appears during milestones they thought would feel bigger. They wish they had protected what they did not understand. They wish they had listened when you were hurting instead of labeling you as the problem. They wish they had known that real love does not shout when it leaves. It waits. And waits. And then disappears forever. They will never tell you this. Pride will stop them. Fear will silence them. But their life will say it for them, in the emptiness they can never fully explain. And now we arrive at the point where your power returns to you. You are not here to wait for their regret. You are here to outgrow it. Because the final truth is this. Their wish does not change your destiny. It confirms it. The breaking of your heart was not the end of your story. It was the removal of a limitation. You were too big for a love that needed convincing. Too deep for someone who ran from emotional responsibility. Too real for someone who wanted comfort without commitment. And one day, when your life feels full in a way that does not require validation, they will sense it. They will feel the distance not because you created it, but because you no longer live in the past they abandoned. That is when the wish becomes permanent. Not to have you back, but to have been worthy of you when it mattered. And that, my beloved child, is a lesson that stays with them for a lifetime. There comes a night when silence stops being peaceful and starts becoming loud. That is the night they finally understand what they lost. Not because something dramatic happened, but because nothing did. No message that made their heart pause. No voice that felt like home. No presence that softened their sharp edges. Just a room filled with achievements that feel hollow. They will sit there, staring at a ceiling they once dreamed under, and feel an unfamiliar heaviness in their chest. This is not loneliness. This is recognition. Recognition that love like yours does not replace itself. They will scroll through memories they pretended were forgettable. They will replay moments they once dismissed as ordinary. And the realization will hit them slowly and cruelly. You were not asking for too much. You were offering something they were too emotionally underdeveloped to receive. At that moment, a quiet sentence forms in their mind. I had someone who loved me deeply, and I did not know how to keep them. That sentence does not leave. It follows them everywhere. Watch how life teaches lessons without mercy. As time moves forward, they will encounter versions of love that are transactional. People who stay only when it is convenient. People who leave at the first sign of depth. People who mirror their own emotional avoidance back to them. And suddenly, your absence becomes louder than your presence ever was. They will remember how you stayed when things were hard. How you communicated instead of disappearing. How you tried to understand instead of escaping. And this comparison will not flatter them. It will expose them. They will realize that what they called too much was actually emotional maturity. What they called drama was vulnerability. What they called pressure was accountability. And the most painful part is this. They will now crave what they once rejected. But craving without access is a special kind of suffering. Because you are no longer available in the same way. You have changed. You have grown. You have healed in silence while they delayed growth by running. Here is the shift you need to feel in your bones. Their regret does not elevate them. It humbles them. And your healing does not make noise. It liberates you. While they are stuck replaying what they could have done differently, you are busy becoming someone who no longer needs that closure. You stopped asking why you were not enough, because you finally understood you were too much for the wrong person. You no longer romanticize their absence. You see it clearly now. They did not leave because you lacked value. They left because staying would have required them to grow. And growth was uncomfortable. Loving you meant facing themselves. And they were not ready. That realization frees you from self-doubt. It returns your power. It allows you to walk forward without dragging the weight of their choices behind you. There is a moment in their future that will hurt more than any breakup ever did. It will happen when they see you happy without explanation. Not loud happiness. Not performative joy. But grounded peace. The kind that comes from self-respect. They will sense it before they see it. In your energy. In your boundaries. In the way you no longer seek validation. And something inside them will crack. Because they will realize they were part of your pain chapter, not your final story. They will realize that losing you did not break you. It refined you. And the version of you standing now is stronger, calmer, and unreachable to the version of them who walked away. That is when the wish transforms. It is no longer about love. It is about timing. They will wish they had met you when they were ready. They will wish they had not underestimated your absence. They will wish they had understood that some doors close quietly and never reopen. And now listen carefully, because this is the truth that seals everything. You were never meant to be the lesson they learned too late. You were meant to be the turning point in your own life. Their inability to love you properly forced you to love yourself correctly. Their departure pushed you toward clarity. Their silence taught you discernment. And the universe does not waste pain like that. One day, when love returns to you in a form that feels safe, consistent, and deep, you will understand why everything unfolded the way it did. Meanwhile, they will carry a quiet knowing for the rest of their life. The knowing that they once had someone rare. Someone real. Someone who would have chosen them daily. And they let it go. That knowing will never scream. It will never beg. It will simply sit with them, forever whispering what could have been. There is a quiet morning waiting in their future, and it will arrive without warning. They will wake up feeling accomplished on paper but empty in spirit. No chaos. No crisis. Just a deep sense that something essential is missing. This is when your absence stops feeling temporary to them and becomes permanent. They will realize that you are no longer someone they can reach. You are someone they missed. The difference between those two truths will hurt more than losing you ever did. Because missed means finished. Missed means the window closed while they were busy convincing themselves they had time. And in that stillness, they will understand something terrifying. You did not leave them emotionally. They left themselves when they walked away from you. Pay attention to how memory sharpens with regret. They will remember details they once ignored. The way you noticed changes in their mood. The way you stayed present even when you were hurting. The way you believed in them during moments they doubted themselves. Those memories will return not as comfort, but as evidence. Evidence that real love was offered and mishandled. They will realize that not everyone loves with patience, and not everyone fights for connection. What you gave was rare, and rarity becomes priceless only after it is gone. They will understand that love is not about finding someone better. It is about recognizing value before it leaves. That understanding will arrive too late, but it will arrive fully. Observe how their future relationships quietly fail. Not loudly. Not dramatically. They will fade. One by one. Because once you have been loved deeply, surface-level connection feels unbearable. They will struggle to feel seen. They will struggle to feel understood. And they will not know how to ask for what they once received naturally from you. This is the consequence no one warns about. When you lose a love that required growth, you carry the emotional gap everywhere you go. And no one fits into it the way you did. That gap becomes their silent companion. Always present. Always reminding them of what they failed to protect. Notice how your life begins to feel lighter as theirs grows heavier. You stop replaying conversations. You stop wondering what you could have done differently. You stop blaming yourself for their emotional limitations. Peace replaces obsession. Clarity replaces confusion. And self-respect replaces longing. You do not need their apology anymore, because your healing answered every question they never did. This is the moment you truly move on. Not when you stop loving them, but when you stop abandoning yourself for someone who already chose to leave. Your growth is not revenge. It is alignment. And finally, understand this truth deeply and without bitterness. They will always wish they had loved you better. Not loudly. Not publicly. But privately. In moments no one sees. That wish will follow them through milestones, celebrations, and quiet nights. It will never destroy them, but it will humble them. Meanwhile, you will continue forward, no longer defined by the one who broke your heart, but strengthened by the one who survived it. You were not meant to be remembered by them. You were meant to remember yourself. And that is the ending they will never have, but you already do. At some point, they will hear your name spoken casually, without emotion, without drama, and it will hit them harder than any confrontation ever could. Not because the name itself hurts, but because of what it represents now. Distance. Finality. A chapter that closed without asking their permission. In that moment, they will realize something irreversible. You are no longer waiting to be understood. You have already moved beyond the need to be explained. And this truth will unsettle them deeply, because it means they can no longer rewrite the story in their favor. They can no longer imagine a future where timing fixes everything. The comfort of, maybe someday, will collapse. What remains is the raw awareness that they lost access to someone who once made life feel meaningful. And meaning, once lost, does not return on demand. There is a strange cruelty in growth that no one talks about. When you grow, you stop making noise about it. You stop announcing milestones. You stop seeking witnesses. And that is exactly how your transformation will reach them. Quietly. Indirectly. Through changes they cannot touch. Through confidence that does not ask for approval. Through boundaries that do not negotiate. They will sense that you are no longer the person they could leave and return to. And that realization will challenge their identity. Because deep down, they believed you would always be there. Always available. Always understanding. Losing that certainty will force them to confront a painful truth. They were not irreplaceable in your life. They were temporary. And the pain of being temporary to someone you underestimated is a wound pride cannot heal. Meanwhile, your inner world will continue to stabilize. The chaos that once lived in your chest will settle into clarity. You will stop asking why things ended and start appreciating why they had to. You will recognize patterns you once ignored. You will honor red flags you once excused. And most importantly, you will stop confusing intensity with intimacy. This shift will change the way you love forever. You will no longer chase potential. You will choose presence. You will no longer settle for promises. You will trust consistency. This evolution is quiet, but it is powerful. And although they will never hear about it directly, they will feel it. Because people always feel when someone they once had outgrows the version of love they could offer. There will be moments when they consider reaching out. Not to repair. Not to rebuild. But to relieve themselves of the weight of regret. They will imagine what they would say. How they would explain. How they would justify their choices. And then they will hesitate. Because something in your silence will feel louder than any response. Your absence will communicate what words never could. That you have moved on without bitterness. That you no longer need answers. That you no longer carry resentment. And that is what will stop them. Because reaching out would force them to face how small their apology feels compared to the depth of what they lost. Sometimes silence is not punishment. It is closure. And this is where the story completes its circle. Not with revenge. Not with reunion. But with release. You were never meant to stay in a place where love had to be proven daily. You were never meant to shrink to be chosen. The heartbreak you survived did not weaken you. It clarified you. It taught you discernment. It taught you patience with yourself. It taught you that love should feel like safety, not anxiety. And while they continue carrying a quiet wish they will never voice, you will carry something far more valuable. Peace. The kind that comes from knowing you loved sincerely, left with dignity, and grew beyond what once broke you. That is not just healing. That is mastery of self. One day, without planning it, you will realize something subtle yet powerful. You no longer wonder how they are doing. Their absence no longer creates a question mark in your mind. That is when freedom truly arrives. And strangely, that is also when their regret reaches its peak. Because the moment you stop caring is the moment they feel the full weight of what they lost. Not because you became cold, but because you became complete. They will sense that they no longer occupy space in your thoughts, and that realization will sting more than anger ever could. Indifference is not cruelty. It is clarity. And clarity is terrifying for someone who avoided emotional responsibility. You did not move on to prove a point. You moved on because your soul demanded peace. As life unfolds, they will notice patterns repeating. The same arguments. The same misunderstandings. The same emotional distance. Different faces, same ending. And slowly, painfully, they will understand the common factor was never the people they met after you. It was them. This awareness will arrive late, but it will arrive honestly. They will finally admit, if only to themselves, that losing you was not bad luck. It was the result of unhealed parts they refused to face. They will realize you were not difficult to love. You were difficult to love incorrectly. And that distinction will haunt them quietly, because it means the failure was internal, not circumstantial. Meanwhile, your life will begin to align in ways that feel effortless. Not perfect, but real. You will attract connections that meet you where you are, not where they want you to stay. Conversations will feel safe. Love will feel calm. Presence will replace confusion. And in those moments, you will understand why everything had to happen exactly as it did. Not to punish them, but to prepare you. You will no longer crave intensity that burns fast. You will value depth that lasts. This is the upgrade heartbreak gives when it does not destroy you. It refines you. They will sometimes replay the past and wonder what would have happened if they had chosen differently. If they had stayed. If they had listened. If they had grown. These thoughts will not bring them comfort. They will bring them awareness. Awareness that some people come into your life as lessons, not lifelines. And the hardest lesson of all is realizing you were the one who let go of something irreplaceable. That understanding will not ruin them, but it will follow them. A quiet reminder that love requires courage, not convenience. And here is the final truth, the one that seals everything. You were never meant to be loved halfway. You were meant to be met fully. The person who broke your heart did not fail because they were evil. They failed because they were unprepared for the depth you offered. And that is not your burden to carry anymore. Your heart did not break because it was weak. It broke because it was open. And now, having healed, it is wiser, stronger, and protected. While they carry a silent wish for what could have been, you carry something far greater. The certainty that you survived, evolved, and reclaimed yourself. And that, in the end, is the greatest victory of all. There will be a day when the memory of them feels distant, like a story you once lived but no longer visit. Not because it lacked meaning, but because it completed its purpose. That is when their wish turns irreversible. They will realize you are no longer reachable even in memory. You have changed so deeply that the version of you they remember does not exist anymore. This realization will shake them quietly. Because people can accept losing someone. What they struggle to accept is losing the version of someone that loved them unconditionally. And that is exactly what they lost when they broke your heart. Not just you, but the safest place they ever had. They will start noticing how people treat them differently now. Less patience. Less understanding. Less grace. And slowly it will dawn on them that what they once received effortlessly was never common. It was you. You were the one who softened situations. You were the one who gave benefit of doubt. You were the one who chose empathy over ego. Without you, life feels sharper to them. Colder. More transactional. And this is when regret stops being emotional and becomes existential. They will question their choices, their patterns, their emotional depth. And the most painful realization will surface. They had someone who made life gentler, and they chose to lose that comfort. At the same time, your inner world will feel stable in a way that no external validation could ever provide. You will trust yourself again. Your instincts. Your boundaries. Your pace. You will no longer confuse love with anxiety or effort with sacrifice. Peace will become your baseline. And once peace becomes normal, chaos loses its attraction. This is growth no one applauds, but everyone feels. You will carry yourself differently. Speak differently. Choose differently. And even without seeing you, they will sense that you are no longer emotionally accessible to the past. That sense will unsettle them, because they know access like that cannot be recreated. There is a quiet irony here that cannot be ignored. The moment they become capable of understanding your value is the moment you no longer need them to. Growth rarely synchronizes. And that mismatch in timing is the punishment of avoidance. They will finally be ready for the love you offered when you are no longer offering it. Not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. This is the cost of learning late. And no explanation can undo it. No apology can reverse it. Some lessons only arrive after the door has closed permanently. You will not celebrate this. You will not feel proud of their regret. You will simply feel neutral. And neutrality is power. It means the wound has healed completely. It means the story no longer controls you. It means you have reclaimed your emotional independence. You are no longer tied to their awareness or acknowledgement. You are anchored in yourself. That is the freedom heartbreak was secretly preparing you for all along. And as life continues, their wish will remain exactly that. A wish. Unfulfilled. Unspoken. Quiet. While your life moves forward with intention and clarity, they will carry the knowing that they once stood at the edge of something rare and walked away. That knowledge will not break them, but it will stay with them forever. And you will no longer be affected by it. Because you were never meant to live in someone else's regret. You were meant to live in your own truth.